The sound of shattering glass echoed off the walls of the office, causing Michael Carter to jerk his head up from the legal documents. In the doorway stood his daughter Emma, pressing a bloodied napkin to her swollen lip. Her school blouse was torn at the shoulder, and her eyes were filled with such fury that Michael involuntarily recoiled from the table. "They know about the party," she said, breathing heavily from running. "Chase is threatening to tell everything." Ella appeared in the doorway right behind her, limping and carefully holding her ribs. A fresh bruise adorned her cheek, and her hair was disheveled as if someone had grabbed her by it. "If we don't leave the school voluntarily by the end of the week," she added, sinking into a chair with a groan. Michael felt the blood run cold in his veins. That damn party 2 months ago was supposed to remain a secret. Forever. He stood up from the table, walked to the window and closed the blinds. A lawyer's old habit when discussing something confidential. "I should have protected them," he thought, looking at his injured daughters. "I'm their father. My job is to ensure their safety, and I failed." "What exactly did he say?" Michael asked, turning to his daughters. "That he has pictures," Emma replied, looking away and clenching the napkin in her fist. "And videos, and that if we don't disappear, the whole world will know what we were like that night." Michael clenched his fist so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He vividly remembered that morning 2 months ago when he found his daughters at home at 6 in the morning, confused, scared, with gaps in their memories and bruises on their wrists. "Sarah," he thought to his late wife, "what would you have done? How do I protect our girls when the system is against us?" The doctor at the hospital had delicately hinted at traces of Rohypnol in their blood tests, but the girls refused to say what had happened. "We can't stay silent any longer," Ella said, massaging her bruised ribs. "This has gone too far. They attacked us today right at school, in front of everyone." "Do you know what will happen if the truth comes out?" Michael asked, sitting on the edge of the table. "The whole town will be talking about you. Those pictures will end up online and stay there forever. And do you know what's happening right now?" Emma showed her shattered phone screen, all cracked. "They're slowly killing us every day, physically and mentally." Every night they wake up screaming, Michael thought. Ella hasn't been able to sleep without a light for a month. Emma has lost 8 kilograms and hardly eats. And I'm sitting here with documents pretending everything is under control. Michael walked over to the massive safe in the corner of the office, entered the code, and pulled out a thick folder of documents. His hands trembled slightly. The adrenaline from realizing that the moment of a decision had come. "There's another way," he said, returning to his daughters. "But you won't like it." "What way?" they asked almost in unison. "I have dirt on the Westbrook family. Financial manipulations, tax evasion, bribery. Enough to put his father away for a long time." The twins exchanged surprised glances. In their 17 years of life, they had grown accustomed to their father always acting strictly within the law. "Where did you get this?" Ella asked. "One of my clients worked as the chief accountant at the Westbrooks company," Michael explained, opening the folder. "He brought these documents after he was fired for refusing to falsify reports. I kept them for a rainy day." "Why didn't you use them before?" Emma asked. Michael was silent for a long time, looking at the picture of his wife on the desk. "Because then I become just like them, using dirty methods. And I promised your mother to always act honestly." But Sarah didn't know that her daughters would be raped, he thought bitterly. Didn't know that I would have to choose between principles and their safety. "Mom didn't know what we would have to go through," Ella said quietly, her voice tinged with a bitterness that had never been there before. Michael remembered how it all began. 3 months ago, getting into the elite Preston Hills Academy seemed like a dream come true. He wanted to give his daughters the best education that money could buy. He didn't think about the price they would have to pay. Sarah warned me. He recalled a conversation from a year ago. She said that elite schools are not just about education, but also about social hierarchy, that our girls would be outsiders in this world. But I didn't listen. I thought I was smarter. Preston Hills Academy was a true fortress of the elite. Red brick, well-kept lawns, centuries-old oaks. Everything spoke of tradition and status. The tuition was $50,000 a year, but it wasn't just about the money. Here, children of congressmen, judges, and owners of large corporations studied. The first day of September was marked by the sound of heels on the marble floor of the hall. Emma and Ella walked in their new school uniforms, dark blue blazers with the school's golden emblem, white blouses, plaid skirts. Michael accompanied them to the entrance and watched as they disappeared into the flow of other students. "Dad is more nervous than we are," Emma joked at that time. "Everything will be fine," Ella added. "We'll manage." How naive we were, Michael thought now. We thought that intelligence and hard work were all that mattered. We didn't understand that different rules apply in this world. The first weeks indeed passed relatively calmly. The girls tried to fit in, joined the debate club and the school orchestra. Teachers praised them for their diligence and abilities. Chase Westbrook gradually entered their lives. The 17-year-old captain of the lacrosse team, president of the student council, and a favorite among teachers. Tall, athletic, with a flawless smile and the manners of a true gentleman. "Welcome to Preston Hill," he said one day after history class, approaching their desk. "You'll adapt quickly. It's not easy for newcomers." "Thank you," Emma replied. "We're trying." "The school may seem a bit intimidating at first," Chase continued with an understanding smile. "There are many traditions, unwritten rules. If anything is unclear, just ask. We should help each other." Ella thought they were lucky to meet such a friendly classmate. She didn't yet know that behind that smile was a predator who had already marked his prey. "By the way," Chase added, gathering his textbooks, "Katie Chen's birthday's coming up soon. There's a party at her house on Saturday. Come, you'll meet the other kids." Emma hesitated. "I don't know. We have a lot of homework and Dad will be happy that you're socializing," Chase interrupted. "Just for a couple of hours, I promise it'll be fun. Katie makes an amazing fruit punch." Blake Thornton, Chase's best friend, appeared next to him as if on cue. "Yeah, the famous punch. Family recipe. No one can resist." They planned everything from the very beginning, Michael realized now. They chose their victims, devised a scheme, and we fell for it like children. Ella nudged her sister with her elbow. "Let's go. It's time to stop being hermits." On Saturday evening, they put on their best dresses and went to the party. Katie's house in the suburbs was lit up, music wafting from the windows. Expensive cars were parked in the yard. Gifts from parents for their 16th birthday. "Wow," Emma whispered as they got out of the taxi. "Half the school is here." "Probably all the most popular kids," Ella added, adjusting her dress. Inside the house, there was a festive atmosphere. Modern music, dim lighting, groups of teenagers with glasses in hand. Katie greeted them at the entrance with a wide smile. "I'm so glad you came," she exclaimed. "Come in, make yourselves at home." Poor Katie, Michael thought. She didn't even know that her birthday was being used for a crime. Another victim in this game. "Would you like some punch?" Blake appeared immediately with a tray. A special recipe from the birthday girl. Secret ingredient. The girls took glasses. The drink was a pleasant pink color, smelled fruity, and hardly tasted of alcohol. "Delicious," Emma said, taking a few sips. "What's in it?" "Fruits, soda, just a little bit of champagne," Blake listed with an innocent smile. "Another glass? Katie will be upset if the punch is left over." "Rohypnol is tasteless," Michael recalled the expert's words. "It dissolves without a trace. The victim feels nothing until it's too late." An hour later, Emma felt a strange dizziness. The music grew louder. The faces of people blurred like in a fog. Ella was holding onto the wall nearby, trying to keep her balance. "What's wrong with me?" she whispered, but the words sounded unclear, as if her tongue wasn't cooperating. "Just relax." Chase's voice sounded very far away, even though he was standing right next to her. "Everything will be fine, trust me." At that moment, I was calmly sitting at home reading documents, Michael thought bitterly, while my daughters were being prepared for rape. Then there was emptiness, fragments of memories like scenes from a bad movie. The bright light of phones, someone's hands, laughter, a feeling of helplessness. In the following months, the girls told their father the fragments they remembered, how they were taken upstairs being told they needed to rest, how they were undressed despite weak protests, how every movement was filmed on phones. "I remember Chase's voice," Emma recounted during a session with the psychologist. "He said, 'Say what you like. Say it for the camera.'" "And I remember the laughter," added Ella. "They laughed at us, as if we were toys." Dr. Reeves, the family psychologist, worked with them twice a week. Fragmentary memories are a normal reaction to trauma, exacerbated by drugs, he explained to Michael. The brain protects itself by blocking the most painful moments. Will they ever fully recover their memories? Maybe, but that's not always good. Sometimes forgetting is a mercy. They woke at dawn in an unfamiliar room upstairs. Their clothes were torn and scattered across the floor. Their bodies ached, and there was an unpleasant taste in their mouths. Chase stood at the door, buttoning his shirt with a satisfied smile of a victor. "I hope you enjoyed yourselves," he said, fixing his hair. "We have great footage for memories, for the personal archive." "What? What did you do to us?" Emma whispered, trying to cover herself with a sheet. "I showed you how we have fun in our circle," Chase replied casually. "By the way, try telling someone. The video is already in a safe place. Everyone will see how responsive you were." Ella tried to stand up, but her legs buckled. "You raped us." "Rape?" Chase theatrically raised his eyebrows. "You asked for it yourselves. I have proof. Who will believe scholarship girls against the son of a city councilman?" Blake appeared in the doorway, also getting dressed. "The phones were on all night. The quality is excellent. You'll especially like the shower scene." "You're sick," Emma whispered. "We're realists," Chase corrected, "and we know the price of everything, including your silence." The drive home was like a nightmare. They called a taxi, sitting in silence, each immersed in her own horror. Michael met them at the door. He hadn't slept all night, calling hospitals and the police. "Where have you been?" he shouted, seeing their condition. "What happened?" "We fell down the stairs at a party," Emma quickly lied. "Everything's fine, just tired." "I should have insisted," Michael berated himself. "I should have called the police immediately, but I believed them and lost time." But Michael didn't believe a word. He called the family doctor, Dr. Reeves, who examined the girls and delicately hinted at the need for further tests. The test results confirmed the worst fears. Traces of rohypnol, tears, bruises. Dr. Reeves advised them to go to the police immediately. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Michael asked his daughters when the doctor left. "Because then the whole world will know," Ella cried. "They will judge us, say it's our fault, that we went to a party and drank." "But they had no right," Michael began. "They have video," Emma interrupted. "Chase said we look consenting in it. Who will believe us?" She was right, Michael thought. In society, victims are still blamed, especially if they are young girls at a party with alcohol. Michael hired private detective Tom McGregor, a former police officer with 20 years of experience. A week later, he brought undeniable evidence. "Classic scheme," McGregor explained, laying out photographs on the table. "They used rohypnol, a drug that erases memory. I found witnesses, video footage from surveillance cameras. We have a case." "Why don't the girls want to go to the police?" Michael asked. "Because they fear exposure more than the crime itself," the detective replied. "It's a normal reaction, especially when the perpetrators come from influential families. They need time." Michael wanted to act immediately, but his daughters begged him not to. They were afraid they would be portrayed as sluts who asked for trouble. "Give us time," Emma pleaded. "We'll manage. We'll find a way." Time was against us, Michael realized. Every day of silence gave them more power over my daughters. But coping turned out to be impossible. Returning to school became a daily torture. Chase and his friends reveled in their power, constantly hinting at that night. "How did you sleep?" Blake would ask, passing by their table in the cafeteria. "Sweet dreams?" "Maybe we should have a party next weekend," Chase would add. "I still have some punch left." The third participant of that night, Jason Moore, was more straightforward. "By the way, you have great figures, especially without clothes." "Every evening I heard them crying in their rooms," Michael recalled. "How Ella screamed in her sleep. How Emma stood under the shower for hours trying to wash away the feeling of dirt. The girls tried to hold on, but each day became harder than the last. They barely slept, ate little, and were afraid to stay at school after classes. Emma began having nightmares every night. The faces of Chase and his friends laughing at her, flashing cameras, the feeling of helplessness. "I can't take it anymore," she told the psychologist. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them." "Nightmares are a natural reaction to trauma," Dr. Reeves explained. "The brain is trying to process what happened. It's painful, but necessary for healing." "And when will it end? When you stop being afraid to tell the truth?" Ella reacted differently. She became aggressive, suspicious of all men. She couldn't be in the same room with her father without experiencing a panic attack. "It's not your fault, dear," Michael would say, standing in the doorway of her room. "I won't hurt you." "I know," she would reply, but her eyes said otherwise. "Just, it takes time." "I lost my daughters," Michael thought. "Not physically, but emotionally. They no longer trust the world. They don't trust me." "Maybe we should switch to another school," Michael suggested after a particularly tough day. "No," Emma said firmly. "Then they win. They'll find new victims, and we'll spend our lives running from our fears." "But you're suffering," the father protested. "We're learning to be strong," Ella replied. "Mom always said that hardship strengthened character." Sarah didn't mean this kind of hardship, Michael thought bitterly. No one should go through this at 17. But they couldn't protect other girls. They barely defended themselves from daily humiliations. The psychological war was waged on all fronts. Insulting notes appeared in their lockers. Someone glued their locker doors shut so they couldn't open them. Fake accounts were created in their names on social media with compromising posts. "Look what Emma is writing," Blake would show his classmates. "Turns out she's looking for new partners for group fun." The hashtag #YourPrestonHillsSluts gained thousands of reposts before social media administration deleted it. "This is psychological terror," Dr. Reeves explained during family therapy. "The goal is to break the victim's will, to make them silent out of fear." "And it works," Emma admitted. "Every day I think about just disappearing." "But you are stronger than you think," the psychologist replied. "Just the fact that you are here and talking about it is a sign of strength." The school administration ignored the complaints. Principal Harrison repeated the same thing every time. "Teenage conflicts are normal. You need to learn to solve problems on your own." "But this isn't a conflict, it's bullying," Emma tried to explain. "I have no proof," the principal replied coldly. "Just your word against the words of other students. And the Westbrook family has supported our school for many years." Money talks, Michael realized. In this world, justice is bought and sold. The climax came on Friday evening. Most students had already left. The hallways were empty. Emma lingered in the library, preparing for a chemistry test. As she exited the building, she heard footsteps behind her. The sound of soles on linoleum echoed off the walls. Turning around, she saw Chase and Blake slowly following her with unpleasant smiles. "Where are you in such a hurry?" Chase asked, his voice echoing in the empty hallway. "We have business with you." Emma quickened her pace, but the sound of their footsteps grew louder. They caught up with her at an empty classroom. Chase grabbed her arm and pulled her inside, slamming the door shut with a clang. "It's time to settle the score," he said, pressing her against the wall. "I'm tired of playing cat and mouse." "Let me go," Emma demanded, trying not to show her fear. "Or what? You'll run to tell Daddy?" Blake laughed. "He already knows what you're really like." Chase reached for her blouse. "Want me to show everyone our home video? You moaned so sweetly that night." Something broke inside Emma. All the accumulated fear, rage, and despair from months burst forth. The years of karate training she had taken for self-defense finally came in handy. A sharp knee strike to the groin. The sound of impact, dull, meaty. An elbow to the jaw, a crunch, another hit, this time to the solar plexus. Chase collapsed to the floor, holding his face and gasping in pain. Blake tried to grab her from behind but received an elbow to the ribs and doubled over, breathing heavily. "Bitch, you broke my teeth!" Chase shouted, spitting blood onto the linoleum. "This is just the beginning," Emma said, standing over them and breathing heavily. "We are no longer victims." But Chase smiled through the blood, creepy, triumphant. "Try something else. Monday, first period. Everyone will see our video in the school chat, and they'll find out who you really are. And we'll tell everyone how you beat us up for no reason," Blake added, wiping blood from his nose. "The administration loves violence in school." Emma realized she was trapped. Any resistance would only make things worse. That night, she told her father and sister everything. About the drugs in the drink, the rape, the months of blackmail and humiliation. Her voice trembled, but the words came out clearly, like testimony in court. "Why did you stay silent for so long?" Michael asked, hugging his daughters and feeling them tremble in his arms. "Because we were scared," Ella replied. "Scared that no one would believe us, that they would say we asked for it. And because we hoped we could handle it ourselves," Emma added. We didn't want to upset you. They were trying to protect me, Michael realized. My daughters had gone through hell and were still trying to spare me. But now we have no choice, Ella said. On Monday, Chase will show everyone the video. He'll tell the story his way. Michael stood up and walked to the safe. Then let's get ahead of him. But first, we need to gather support. He called Dorothy Henderson, a 70-year-old woman who had worked in the education system for 30 years and was now involved in advocacy. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. "Mr. Carter?" a surprised voice said on the line. "At this hour, is something wrong?" Michael explained the situation, not hiding any details. Dorothy listened silently, occasionally interjecting questions. He could hear her jotting down key points. "This is very serious," she finally said. "We need to act quickly and correctly. Otherwise, they'll cover it all up or twist it. What do you suggest?" "A multi-step operation," Dorothy replied decisively. "First, a report to the police with a complete set of evidence. At the same time, a complaint to the State Department of Education, and simultaneously, an appeal to the press. Let them not have time to organize a cover-up." "I have compromising material on the Westbrook family," Michael said. "Financial violations? Great, that will tie their hands. They won't be able to use their influence and connections if they themselves are under investigation." Over the weekend, they prepared for the attack. Michael reached out to fellow lawyers specializing in personal crimes. Dorothy activated her media contacts. The girls prepared written testimonies. "Are you sure you're ready?" Michael asked his daughters on Sunday evening. "After this, there will be no turning back." "We're ready," Emma replied firmly. "Better a hard truth than an easy lie." "And if this helps other girls, it's worth it," Ella added. They have grown up, Michael thought. From frightened children, they had turned into women ready to fight for justice. On Monday morning, they struck on all fronts simultaneously. Michael filed a police report and submitted documents about the financial machinations to the FBI. Dorothy contacted journalists from local and regional publications. By noon, the story was already in the news. "Scandal at an elite school, rape and corruption," read the headline on the Chicago Tribune website. "The daughters of a lawyer accuse classmates of gang rape." Michael's phone was ringing off the hook with calls from journalists. Television crews were stationed outside the school. Online, the story spread like wildfire. Just as 4 Carter twins garnered 1 million mentions within hours, social media users shared their own stories of sexual violence, expressing support for the family. "Finally, someone dared to speak the truth," wrote one girl. "I went through this in school too, but I was afraid to tell." "People like Chase need to be locked up," commented another user. "Rich kids shouldn't be untouchable." Chase attempted to counterattack by posting an edited video on social media. But it was already too late. The media had received expert opinions on the editing before the publication. "This is revenge," stated the Westbrook family's lawyer at a press conference. "The Carter family is trying to cover up their daughter's promiscuous behavior with false accusations." "We have irrefutable evidence," Michael countered at the same press conference. "Medical reports, surveillance video, witness testimonies." The wave of public outrage was so strong that even influential friends of the Westbrooks began to distance themselves. Chase's father resigned from his position as city councilor for family reasons. A month later, Chase, Blake, and Jason were arrested on charges of gang rape. Legal proceedings began. "We won," Emma said, reading the news about the arrests. "Did we win?" Michael asked thoughtfully. "Look at yourself in the mirror. You've changed a lot." Emma approached the mirror in the hallway. The girl who believed in justice and the kindness of people 3 months ago was gone. In her place stood a young woman with hardened eyes and pursed lips. "But I survived," she said, "and I helped protect other girls." "But at what cost?" "Any necessary cost," Emma replied without hesitation. Innocence does not return, Michael realized. My daughters had grown up too quickly and too painfully. The trial stretched on for 6 months. The defense attorneys tried to tarnish the twins' reputation, portraying them as promiscuous teenagers who sought out trouble themselves. The plaintiffs voluntarily attended the party, Chase's lawyer stated in court. They voluntarily consumed alcohol, and now they are trying to shift the responsibility for their actions onto my clients. "Objection," the prosecutor shouted. "Consent cannot be given by a person under the influence of drugs." Accepted, the judge agreed. But the evidence was too compelling. Medical reports, video analysis, witness testimonies, all pointed to a deliberate crime. The defendants used narcotic substances to render the victims helpless, the prosecutor stated in his closing speech. And then they committed gang rape, filming the events for subsequent blackmail. The most difficult moment came with the testimonies of the girls themselves. They had to recount the details of that night in open court, answering uncomfortable questions from the defense attorneys. "Miss Carter, do you remember what happened in the room?" Attorney Chase asked. "Partially," Emma replied, clenching her hands. "The drug erases memory, but not sensations. Maybe you just thought something inappropriate was happening." "I didn't imagine the bruises on my body and the ruptured internal organs," she interrupted sharply. Silence fell in the courtroom. Several jurors looked away. "Miss Carter, why did you go to that party?" "To meet classmates, to fit in." "And did you know there would be alcohol?" "Yes, but I didn't know there would be drugs." "How can we be sure?" "Because you have medical tests." Emma couldn't hold back. "Because you have expert opinions. Because you know what they did." The judge struck the gavel. "Witness, maintain your composure." "My daughters are holding up well," Michael thought, watching from the gallery. "They are telling the truth despite attempts to break them." Ella's testimony was even more painful. She spoke of nightmares, panic attacks, and how she couldn't be near men for months. "I still wake up in a cold sweat," she said. "I see their faces. I hear their laughter." "And you are sure this was not consent on your part?" the attorney pressed. "I was unconscious," Ella shouted. "How can you consent when you are unconscious?" The jury returned a verdict of guilty on all counts after 3 hours of deliberation. Chase received 7 years in prison, while Blake and Jason each received 5 years. "Justice has prevailed," the newspapers wrote. But for the Carter family, it was not a victory, but survival. "How do you feel?" a CNN journalist asked Michael after the verdict was announced. "Relieved," he replied, hugging his daughters. "But this is not a reason to celebrate. My daughters went through hell. No one comes out of such an experience unchanged." "What do you plan to do next?" "Help other families who find themselves in similar situations." This process showed how many gaps there are in the system protecting victims. The civil lawsuit against the Westbrook family concluded with a compensation payment of $2 million. Michael invested the money in creating a fund to assist victims of sexual violence. "Money won't bring back our old life," Ella told reporters, "but it can help others avoid our fate." A year later, the twins graduated with honors. They transferred to a private school with stricter safety rules. Their story became a symbol of the fight against violence in educational institutions. The documentary, Sisters: A Survival Story, won an Emmy Award. Michael's book, The Price of Justice, became a bestseller. "Do you regret your decision?" Time magazine asked while doing a piece on teenagers who changed the system. "What decision?" Emma asked back. "The one not to remain victims? The one to fight back? The one to protect other girls? The one that made us grow up so early?" Ella took her sister's hand. "We didn't lose our childhood. We gained strength. Mom always said that life spares no one, but everyone has a choice, to break or to become stronger." At the prom in their new school, the girls received a special award for courage and community service. The principal personally thanked them for their work in improving safety in educational institutions. "You have changed not only our school," he said to applause, "you have changed society's attitude towards the problem of sexual violence among teenagers." "This is just the beginning," Emma replied. "We plan to continue this work in college and beyond." Their university applications went successfully. Emma chose Columbia University Law School. Ella chose Harvard, psychology. Different cities, different programs, but a common goal. "I want to become a prosecutor," Emma explained her choice, "to specialize in sexual assault cases, so that criminals know they won't get away with it. And I want to help victims recover," Ella added, "to show them that life doesn't end after trauma." Their university years became a period of healing and growth, but not without difficulties. In her first year at Columbia, Emma had a panic-stricken fear of seminars with male students. When Professor Jenkins asked her to stay after class to discuss her essay, she had a panic attack. "Miss Carter, are you feeling all right?" he asked, concerned, seeing her tremble. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered, gasping for air. I need to go out." She ran out of the classroom and sat in the bathroom for half an hour until her breathing normalized. "This will pass," she told herself. "I can't be afraid of men my whole life." Ella was interning at a psychiatric clinic at Harvard. Working with trauma victims was painful but necessary. "Today a girl was brought to me," she told Emma over the phone. 15 years old. Her stepfather raped her. She hasn't spoken for a month. "And what are you doing?" "I'm just sitting next to her, showing her that she's not alone. Words aren't always necessary." "That's heartbreaking," Emma said. "Yes, but when she smiled for the first time today, it was worth all the tears." In their third year, the sisters began giving lectures to students about consent and preventing sexual violence. "Statistics say that 1 in 4 of you will experience coercion," Emma told the packed audience. "But statistics don't determine fate. Knowledge is power." After one such lecture, a student named Rachel approached them. "It happened to me last week," she whispered, "at a fraternity party. I don't know what to do." "We know," Ella replied, hugging the girl. "We'll help." This was their first case at university. Rachel found the strength to file a report. The perpetrator was expelled from the university and held accountable. "If it weren't for your lecture, I would have stayed silent," Rachel said later. "You showed me that it wasn't my fault." Michael took his daughters to the airport with pride and sadness at the same time. They had grown up, becoming strong, independent women, but childhood ended too soon. "I'm proud of you," he said, hugging them goodbye. "Mom would be proud too." "Do you think we did the right thing?" Ella asked, looking at the airplane. "I think you did the only thing you could do in those circumstances," Michael replied. "And sometimes that's more important than being absolutely right." Maybe Sarah would have been against such harshness, he thought, but she would have understood. Protecting children justifies any means. 5 years later, their paths crossed again in Chicago. Emma became an assistant district attorney, specializing in sexual assault cases. Ella opened a center for psychological assistance for crime victims. The Carter sisters, from victims to advocates, the newspapers wrote about their work. But the job wasn't just about successes. Each case reminded them of their own trauma. In Ella's center, a client named Sarah appeared, a 25-year-old woman who had been raped at a corporate party. She couldn't sleep for weeks, afraid to leave the house. "I feel dirty," Sarah said, clutching a napkin, "as if it's written on my forehead." "I know that feeling," Ella replied gently. "It won't disappear right away, but it will, I promise." "How do you know?" "Because I went through the same thing." Ella shared her story, not all the details, but enough for Sarah to understand that she wasn't alone. "Do you really think I can live normally?" "Not only can you, but you will help others. Pain can become strength if you channel it correctly." Working with such cases gradually healed Ella herself. Helping others to recover, she was healing herself. Emma had a different approach. She pursued criminals with the methodical precision of a surgeon. The case against Robert Miller, a 30-year-old teacher accused of harassment towards female students, became her first major victory. Preparing for the trial took months. 7 victims, aged 14 to 17. Each was afraid to speak publicly. "He said that if I told, I would be expelled," cried 14-year-old Ashley during her testimony. "He said it was our little secret. He locked the classroom door," added 16-year-old Brittany. "He said he wanted to discuss grades. And then he touched me." Emma worked for hours with each girl, preparing them for their testimonies, explaining that they were not to blame for what had happened. "Mr. Miller used his position to coerce minors into sex," Emma stated in court, looking at the jurors. "He systematically selected victims from among vulnerable girls from troubled families." The defense attorney tried to portray Miller as a victim of false accusations. "My client is a respected educator with an impeccable reputation," he claimed. "Teacher of the year at his school. Would you really believe the fantasies of teenagers?" "Pedophiles often choose professions that give them access to children," Emma countered. "We have testimonies from 7 victims with the same pattern of the defendant's behavior. Locked doors, discussions about grades, gradual escalation." The key testimony came from Ashley. The girl trembled in the witness stand but spoke clearly. "He said I was special, that I had problems at home, and he wanted to help. And then he started touching me. He said that if I told, no one would believe me." The courtroom fell silent. 2 jurors wiped away tears. Miller received 15 years. After the verdict, one of the victims approached Emma. "Thank you," said the 17-year-old girl. "If it weren't for you, he would still be hurting children." Thank you for your courage, Emma replied. Without your testimony, there would have been no case. But not all cases ended in victory. The case of David Preston, a swimming coach, became a painful defeat for Emma. 3 girls from the team brought forward accusations, but the defense attorney managed to discredit their testimonies, presenting them as revenge for being kicked off the team. There is no physical evidence, and the judge stated. No witnesses, just words against words. Preston was acquitted. Emma sat in the empty courtroom and cried, for the first time in years. I let them down, she told Ella over the phone. Those girls trusted me, and I couldn't achieve justice. You did everything you could, her sister comforted her. The system is imperfect, but that doesn't mean you should give up. A year later, Preston was arrested again for harassment of new students. This time, there was enough evidence. See, Ella said, the truth always comes out. It just sometimes takes time. Every victory in court is a small revenge on Chase, Emma thought. Every criminal behind bars is justice for all of us. But the work was not easy. Sometimes Emma and Ella argued over their different approaches to justice. You're becoming obsessed with revenge, Ella told her sister. It's unhealthy. And you forgive those who don't deserve forgiveness, Emma replied. Some people don't change. But we are not judges. Our job is to help victims, not to take revenge on criminals. My job is to protect society from predators. And if that looks like revenge, so be it. Michael saw how trauma had changed his daughters in different ways. Ella had become softer, more compassionate, but sometimes too trusting. Emma, tougher, more determined, but sometimes ruthless. You're both right in your own way, he said at family dinners. Ella heals wounds, Emma prevents new ones. The world needs both. But we're so different now, Ella said sadly. We used to be like 2 halves of a whole. And now you're 2 different women with a common goal, Michael replied. That's not worse, just different. A new client appeared at Ella's center, a 16-year-old named Madison. Injured, frightened, convinced that no one would believe her. Tell me what happened, Ella said softly, offering tea. No one will believe me, Madison whispered. He's too popular, too rich. His father knows all the important people in town. History repeats itself, Ella thought. The same words, the same fear that we had. We will believe you, she replied firmly, and we will help, I promise. The girl looked up, and a tiny spark of hope appeared in her eyes. Can you really help? We can, Ella said, pulling out her phone. I'm going to call my sister. She's a prosecutor. We know what to do because we've been through this ourselves. Emma arrived half an hour later. She listened to Madison's story, asked the necessary questions, and explained the legal process. It will be difficult, she warned honestly, but you are not alone. You have support, and experience shows justice is possible. What if it doesn't work out? Madison asked. It will work out, Emma replied confidently, because we won't stop until we achieve results. Madison's case became another victory. The criminal, son of an influential businessman, received the punishment he deserved. The girl received the necessary support for recovery. Thank you, she said to the Carter sisters at their last meeting. You saved my life. We just showed you that you can save yourself, Ella replied. Everyone has that power. Sometimes you just need help to find it. And you need to know that there are people who will fight for you, Emma added. Criminals need to understand. The time of impunity is over. That evening, the sisters sat in a cafe, reflecting on another case. Do you think we've changed for the better? Ella asked. We've become who we were meant to be, Emma replied. Strong, principled, ready to defend those who cannot defend themselves. And sometimes I miss that naive girl I used to be. Naivety is a luxury we cannot afford in our work, Emma said. But humanity, we can and must. You're right. We haven't lost our hearts. We've just learned to protect them. Outside the cafe, the sun was slowly setting over Chicago. Somewhere in the city were people who needed help, victims who were afraid to speak, criminals who considered themselves untouchable. And there were 2 women who knew the value of justice and were ready to fight for it. You know what Mom would say? Ella asked. What? That we've become exactly the people she wanted us to be. Strong, but not cruel. Principled, but not fanatical. Ready to help those in need. Emma smiled, a genuine smile for the first time in a long while. Mom would be proud. 10 years after that terrible day at Preston Hills Academy, the Carter sisters became some of the most respected specialists in the field of victim advocacy for sexual violence. Their center had helped over 1,000 people. Emma led a special department in the prosecutor's office, achieving changes in legislation regarding sexual crimes. Their media influence grew year by year: interviews on CNN, appearances on the Oprah Winfrey Show, documentaries. Their story became a symbol of the fight for justice. Tell our viewers how you find the strength to help others after your own trauma, Oprah asked live on air. Pain can destroy or heal, Ella replied. We chose healing, and we realized that by helping others, we help ourselves. And you, Emma, aren't you afraid of being called too tough? Toughness is a defensive reaction, Emma said, but behind it lies love. Love for justice, for protecting the innocent. The documentary, Sisters: A Survival Story, won an Emmy and gathered a record audience. 20 million viewers. This is not just our story, Emma said at the awards ceremony. It's the story of every woman, every child who has faced violence and found the strength to speak the truth. The reaction to the film was overwhelming. In Ella's center, more than 5,000 inquiries were received in a month. The hashtag #OneSurvivorSpeakOut became a global movement. The Carter Law, which requires educational institutions to report cases of sexual violence within 24 hours, was passed in 20 states. The path to the law's adoption was fraught with challenges. Emma traveled to Washington for months, meeting with congressmen and persuading skeptics. Senator Johnson, your position endangers children, she said at Senate hearings. Every day of silence is another potential victim. Ms. Carter, we understand your zeal, the senator replied, but laws cannot be made on emotions. We need facts. Here are the facts. Emma placed a thick folder on the table. Statistics from states that have already implemented similar measures. A 30% reduction in repeat offenses. Lobbyists from private schools resisted with all their might. They argued that the law infringes on the autonomy of educational institutions. Autonomy cannot be more important than the safety of children, Emma countered at a press conference. This is a matter of priorities. A turning point came with the testimony of 17-year-old Kaylee Morgan, a victim of violence at a prestigious boarding school. If the school had reported the first incident, I wouldn't have been raped 2 more times, she said before Congress. Silence kills. The law passed by a margin of 15 votes. This is our true victory, Emma said at the signing ceremony. Not revenge, but prevention. Ella's center became a model for similar institutions across the country. Her trauma-informed methodologies were taught in universities. Healing is possible, became the center's motto, but only through truth and support. Chase Westbrook was released from prison early for good behavior, but his life was shattered. His conviction made employment nearly impossible. He moved to another state, changed his name, and tried to start anew. But the internet does not forget, and the victims do not forget either. Every workplace eventually learned about his past. Every attempt to build relationships ended the same way. Women found out who he was. It's unfair, he complained to his lawyer. I served my time. I should have the right to a new life. Justice is a relative concept, the lawyer replied. Your victims also had the right to a normal life. Emma kept track of his rehabilitation attempts through her colleagues in various states. She did not seek revenge. She simply would not let him forget. Don't you feel guilty? Ella once asked. For what? For the fact that a criminal is held accountable for his actions? Emma replied. He made a choice then. Now he lives with the consequences. But people can change. They can, but trust must be earned, and some things cannot be earned. A new client appeared at Ella's center, a young man who committed a sexual offense as a teenager and now sincerely regretted it. I want to make amends, he said, but I don't know how. Start with honesty with yourself, Ella replied. Acknowledge full responsibility for your actions. Work on yourself and help others not to make the same mistakes. Will the victim ever be able to forgive me? Forgiveness is the victim's choice, not the criminal's right, Ella said. Your task is to become a person worthy of forgiveness. Whether you receive it is another question. This case sparked a new argument between the sisters. You're helping a perpetrator, Emma accused her sister. He should suffer, not receive therapy. I'm helping to prevent new crimes, Ella countered. If he changes, others won't be harmed. And what if he doesn't change? What if he uses your help to better hide his true nature? Then I'll be the first to report it to you. But I can't judge people for crimes they haven't committed yet. Michael intervened in the argument. Girls, you're both right. The system must both punish and rehabilitate. Emma protects society from criminals. Ella helps criminals not become repeat offenders. But we're working in opposite directions, Emma said. No, the father replied. You are working towards the same goal through different paths. The goal is to stop sexual violence. Ella prevents it through rehabilitation, you, through punishment. Justice, as the Carter sisters understood, does not always mean retribution. Sometimes it is simply about restoring balance, protecting the weak from the strong, preventing new crimes. At the 20th anniversary of their graduation, Preston Hills Academy invited them to a reunion. They did not attend but sent a letter that was read at the ceremony. We are grateful to the school for the lesson, they wrote. Not the lesson that was intended for us, but the one we learned ourselves. A lesson that justice does not come on its own. It must be earned, and that every person has the right to defend their dignity. A new generation of students at the academy studied their story as an example of courage and resilience. The school fundamentally changed its security policies and introduced mandatory programs for preventing sexual violence. Never again became the motto of the new administration. On her 40th birthday, Emma and Ella gathered at their father's house. Michael had aged but continued to work, now mainly with the families of victims. Are you proud of your life? He asked his daughters. We live as we believe is right, Emma replied. We protect those who need protection. And help people heal from trauma, Ella added. Find the strength to move on. Are you happy? The sisters exchanged glances. Happiness was a complex concept for people who had seen so much pain and injustice. We are content, Ella finally said. We know our lives have meaning. And we feel that Mom would be proud of us, Emma added. They raised their glasses in memory of Sarah Carter, the woman who did not live to see her daughters become who she wanted them to be. Somewhere in the heavens, she was indeed proud of them. They had walked through fire and not burned, faced evil and not become embittered, grown strong but not cruel. Maybe this is the true victory, Michael thought, not the triumph of good over evil. That only happens in fairy tales, but the victory of human dignity over attempts to destroy it. The story of the Carter sisters did not end with a happy ending, but with something more important. The understanding that justice is not an event, but a process. Not an achievement, but a constant struggle. And that in this struggle, the most important thing is not to break, to maintain humanity, and to help others do the same. Because the world is not divided into good and bad people. It is divided into those who are willing to fight for justice and those who prefer to look away. The Carter sisters made their choice and helped thousands of others make the same. And in the end, perhaps this is the only victory that truly matters in the real world.